On the 18th of May 2020, an innocent man by the name of Chad Gordon was gunned down on his own front doorstep after Tottenham gang members Cameron Robinson and Maiten Sani Samido had got the wrong address in a revenge plot gone wrong. Chad had been shot in the head at point-blank range after being caught up in an ongoing tit-for-tat rivalry that only a short while before seen the death of another man, Jemal Ebrahim. Cameron and Mason were hungry for revenge after their close friend had just been killed. The pair were eventually tracked down by police for the murder of Chad Gordon and last year were handed 29-year prison sentences, which I covered previously. But today let's take a look into the murder of Jemal Ebrahim and why rival gang members took it upon themselves to in turn murder a completely innocent man on his own front doorstep. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, there wasn't just one revenge attack that took place after the murder of Jemal Ebrahim, there was 3. 5 days prior to the murder of Chad Gordon, GLane gang members Tyrese Annan, Mizuki Brown and Abdul Gaffer were fixated on stabbing anyone who they believed was a member of the rival Edgecot Grove gang, or who you might know as the drill rap group N15. On that evening, they had set off in a silver Nissan Qashqai from the Wiltshire Gardens estate in Finsbury Park. They were heading for the Edgecot Grove Estate in Tottenham. Once arriving, CCTV captures the whole incident take place, and the sequence of events are pretty short. The group arrives in the Qashqai armed with various knives, and at least 3 of them jump out after they spot a group of people. They then chase the group before setting their sights on Jemal, who by this point had been running down an alleyway. Sadly for Jemal, the group would catch up with him and he would go on to be stabbed in the thigh, severing the femoral artery. The group then ran back to their vehicle and fled the scene. Emergency services were called fairly quickly and arrived at the scene thereafter. Jemal was found in a pool of blood, although he was still breathing at this point, so paramedics rushed him to hospital in an attempt to save his life, but the following day he was pronounced dead. So an investigation was opened into the incident, and after tracking the Nissan down to Effingham Road, N16, roughly a mile and a half away from where the stabbing had just took place, Tyrese, Mizuki and Abdul were arrested after they'd been spotted walking in the streets in the area. Police would go on to charge them about a month later, and they all went on to deny the charges that were brought against them. Later on though, Abdul did admit to being the driver, so his plea of manslaughter was accepted by the prosecution. The other 2 continued to deny the murder charge, however, so a trial went ahead at the Old Bailey. In court, we come to find out that Jemal had actually been living in China after moving there when he was 16. He was pursuing education abroad to then finalising his first year of business school. He had flew home for Christmas in 2019, and when the pandemic hit, he had to stay in the country to be with his family. Ultimately, some months later, he was stabbed to death on the streets of the UK. Other key bits of information that wasn't previously known is that shortly after the stabbing took place, N15 gang members wanted revenge, so 2 attacks took place at 2 separate addresses associated with Tyrese, but there isn't any in-depth details surrounding those specific attacks. Then of course, 5 days after the killing, Chad Gordon had been shot dead on his own front doorstep after Cameron and Mason had got the wrong address. It was actually Chad's next door neighbours that had been friends of Tyrese and Mizuki, but sadly Chad was shot dead instead. So after the trial, both Tyrese and Mizuki were found not guilty on the murder charge, but were found guilty on the lesser charge of manslaughter. Mizuki was handed a 12-year sentence, Tyrese was handed an 11-year sentence, whilst Abdul was handed an 8-year sentence. So some of you might be asking yourself how these 3 were convicted of manslaughter rather than murder, and if you haven't connected the pieces together, well, the reason being is because 2 other people are currently wanted by police in connection with the incident. But we don't know who the police are specifically looking for, we don't even know if the police know themselves. Maybe then the jury did believe that the 2 who are still on the run were the ones to actually inflict the fatal stab injury on Jemal. Remember, he was only stabbed once in the leg, realistically meaning only one person did it. For now though, that's all we know about this case, and the sad circle of violence continues. This case ever so more saddening as an innocent autistic man had been shot dead on his own front doorstep.